Hey, it's Mariana, and thank you for joining me on the Commitment to Growth podcast, a platform dedicated to helping you build resilience for lifelong momentum. We chat about healing, mindset development, and how to live in your authentic truth, because often it's not our problems that cause our dissatisfaction, but everything around them that we haven't yet addressed. Thank you for joining me today, and let's get into this week's conversation. I was walking through the forest near my home this morning when it struck me that autumn is a beautiful reminder that even in nature's season of shedding and letting go, she is vibrant. Even when she says goodbye to the blooms that decorate her, she knows that letting go is only temporary. When the wind howls and strips her bare until there is nothing left but the wood that is her body, she stands tall knowing that her nakedness is a testament to how she braves every storm. Her barrenness is proof to the beauty of vulnerability. It struck me then that perhaps we are the same. If you are in your own season of shedding right now, I urge you to lean in because life will not wait for you. The more you resist her, the further she will push you into the fire, not to burn you or even to quench it, but to show you that you are the fire. You are the one who must burn it all down and trust that when only embers and ashes are left, what will be left is fresh earth from which new life can grow. You are all at once the fire, the earth, and the rain from which new things can be born. Do not let your own power of creation scare you. It is within you to birth the life you desire. That was a quick snippet of a little 2-minute article that I published to my Substack and to my Medium profiles. If you don't know, outside of the work that I do as a coach and here on the podcast, one of my biggest aspirations is to, at some point later in my life, spend my days writing my time away at a Parisian cafe. So really, I just live out those aspirations on those platforms, and I'll link it in the show notes in case you want to give it a read because it's a powerful one. It's one of my favorite ones I've published recently. With that, hello, welcome to the Commitment to Growth podcast. If you're new, welcome. And if you're not new, welcome back. My name is Mariana. I am the founder of this fun little space of the internet, and I am dedicated to helping women heal cycles of disconnection, dysregulation, and disempowerment. And one of the ways that I am helping women and the collective, really, because it's an inviting space here on the podcast, build more resilience is by hosting these conversations around how to step into more full and authentic versions of ourselves unapologetically, how to go from fearful to fierce, and really how to embrace that journey for all that it is and all that comes with it. And it's been a while since I sat behind the microphone, so I'm super, super excited to be here with you today and just to be finally pouring out one of the many podcast ideas that I've had sitting in my notes app for so many months and finally getting it out into the world. And I did take a hiatus in the summer, as I typically do from the podcast, just to kind of step back and rest and enjoy the summers here in Vancouver, Canada, because we tend to be so rainy the rest of the year. And I had every intention of coming back at the beginning of September. And I returned from a 3-week holiday in Mexico City with family, and I was so ready. I had all these plans. I had my calendar and my list of to-dos ready to go. And life had different plans. Listen, I don't know if it's eclipse season or autumn or all of the above. And by the way, when I say eclipse season, I don't know what astrological sign we're in. When I say eclipse season, I mean, I fully believe that as nature is going through her seasons of transition and growth, she takes us with her because we are an extension of nature. We are nature. I think somebody told me that it's is it Libra eclipse season? I'm not really sure. All I can tell you is I'm a Gemini and a Virgo rising, I believe, and I still don't know the entirety of what that means. But if you do know, and you're versed in astrology and you're listening to this, please send me a DM on Instagram. Maybe you can tell me why in my spare time, all by myself, all I am called to do is not listen to, but rather read Pinterest poetry that my 12-year-old self would have loved on Tumblr. So if you have a diagnosis for me, please let me know. So I think just the season has brought with it so much change and critical shadow work and a huge reevaluation of self and how I relate to myself and how I walk through the world. And it has really brought up a lot of things that I had never confronted from my past, a lot of memories that I didn't realize were at the driver's seat of how I was living my life. And it's been very hard work, but now I'm kind of leaving the dense fog, and I can say it's been beautiful work. It's been a huge spiritual journey into more of myself. I have never felt more vastness and calm in my body, even though like for so much of the beginning part of the journey there was so much anxiety. I was feeling so much overwhelm and fear, and I 100% plan on making an episode about all the events that transpired throughout the past month, because I do think that it's a story that could be your guiding light, somebody else's guiding light, or just filled with a lot of lessons that we can all take away. But today I wanted to make the first episode back a huge tribute to ending this hiatus and just starting this new season feeling like a totally more empowered and determined and passionate version of myself. And I want to help you step into that energy for yourself as well, which is why today, what I really, really want to talk about is how to help yourself stop being your own worst critic, how to step out of disempowerment and into being fierce and fearless and really harnessing the power of your mind and your energy instead of being a slave to your mind. And that's really what this episode is about. And I want to give you the tools today to understand where some of your most negative belief systems about yourself come from, why they persist, why they seem to grow, why you feel like you can't get out of them, and how to actually pull out the silver lining in the negativity, in the self-loathing, and turn that into a reason for purpose, for empowerment, for desire, for drive. Because it's in there. I think we forget that, yes, it is a very natural human tendency to fall into negativity and into scarcity mindset because it's just our monkey mind, it's our survival mechanism, right? But our soul's truest state of alignment is joy and abundance and high vibration and calling in and creating. And from that negativity, we can create something, and you have the capacity to be the creator of the life you desire. So one quick announcement before we get into the content of today's episode is that if you didn't know, Commitment to Growth is now on YouTube doing short form content. So if you're watching this episode on YouTube, head over to the channel and you'll find some of my resilience coaching in a sip videos on my resilience coaching sips playlist, I believe I titled it. But if you're not familiar, I have been getting in front of the camera more on YouTube. I've actually been enjoying it a lot. I feel like I'm living out my 15-year-old dreams of being somewhat of a YouTuber. I don't know if I can call myself that yet. But what are labels, right? So they're really fun short form videos if you're ever just looking for something to play in the background of when you're cooking, or just something like a quick little something to get you inspired for the day. It's just Commitment to Growth on YouTube, and you'll find all the goodness there. That's that. And let's get into today's episode. So if you clicked on the title of today's episode, there's a good chance that you are coming to realize that you are the one standing in your own way. You are noticing how your mind is persistently putting you down, how you are nitpicking yourself all the time, how you might be painting yourself in a way that is not how you want to be or feel, but you can't seem to shake off this feeling that you might not be good enough, that you might not be ready enough, that you might not be confident enough to go after what you dream of. How many of us can say that we were told either growing up or recently by a friend, a coworker, our boss, our partner, our children, that we're missing the mark, that we're not good enough, that we're not smart enough, that we aren't desirable enough, that we aren't pretty enough, good looking enough, capable enough, strong enough, tough enough. What memories are at the driver's seat of your present right now? when you think about the life that you want, the business that you want, the relationship that you want, the friendships that you want, the travel desires that you want, what are the thoughts that come up and block the desire, that make you feel like you will never achieve it, that it is too far out of reach, that you are not the kind of person that can do those things or even deserves those things? I think all of us really struggle with this limiting belief condition that is part of the human experience, right? For me personally, I think I've realized that being so constantly involved in the self-improvement industry culture, right, because of by virtue of what I do with my coaching business and with this podcast, but also being a solo entrepreneur, being in this world of always chasing the next standard, like you need to invest in this new coaching program, or you're never quite good enough to be in a relationship. You always have to fix your attachment style. You have more confidence to build. You have more self-awareness to build. It's like this constant reinforcement of the idea that you are not enough, that you have more to work on, that you have to grow more. You have to be more to be what you want to be, to do what you want to do. And for me, I think that is an energy that I have gone very unconscious to in the past. And I have realized recently in the past month that this persistent standard that we never reach, that we set ourselves up to never reach, because we think that growth lies in always chasing, reinforces to us the idea that we are not enough. And that scarcity mindset has been such a theme in my life the past year, trying to show up in ways that people tell you to get you more listeners, more followers, more clients. And I'm not saying that certain strategies aren't good, but what I am saying is that the more time you spend listening to others, the less time you spend listening to yourself and what that authentic expression is actually telling you about what is the truest way for you to show up. And so my first piece of advice to you in this episode is I urge you to pay attention to where in your life you are spending more time chasing an impossible standard and telling yourself that you just have more growing to do, you have more learning to do, you have more practicing to do, versus procrastinating the actual doing of. And I think for many of us, that is actually where we get stuck, is at the starting line, because the starting line is where we are facing all of our demons, all of our limiting beliefs. But a lot of us don't realize how deeply we are feeding these false beliefs about who we are. We don't realize how much power we are giving to our past, to the comments that we see on our social media, to the past gossip or critique that we've heard about ourselves, and giving power to those stories, to those things that people said about us, and claiming them as true, and walking around with these stories like baggages on our back, and allowing those things to dictate who we are instead of us consciously choosing an image of who we want to be when we walk through this world. So I want you to listen to the next thing that I'm going to say. If you are doing something, pause, be with me for the next 15 seconds as I say this to you, because this is a gold nugget that I think that is going to hit you really hard. If a belief that you hold about yourself does not bring you peace, or requires that you sacrifice something you deeply desire to be true, this is an indicator that it is not a truth. Listen to that again. If a belief that you hold about yourself does not bring you peace or requires that you sacrifice something that you deeply desire to be true, then it is not a truth. It is a false story. If you walk around telling yourself that you are not good enough, that you are not smart enough, that you are not enough for somebody, that you do not have enough experience, that you are not capable enough, and that is preventing you from achieving the dreams, the relationship, the friendships, the life that you want for yourself, why would you continue to feed it? Why would you continue to tell yourself that if it is so negatively impacting you from what you want, it must be true. When, if the desire that you want for your life is still in your heart, let that be the guiding truth that pulls you out of the darkness and gives you reason to believe that that negativity is just a false belief that you have to rewrite. And by the way, I am not saying that our past does not have a role in our self-image, because our pasts, for many of us who have been through deep trauma and very hard experiences that had a great emotional imprint on us, those memories about our worth, our lovability, our capability will cement themselves within us. But you give your power away to your past when you let those experiences dictate the truth of who you are instead of you deciding that for yourself. Like I said in the story, or in the article that I wrote, that I read out to you at the beginning of this episode, you are the fire and the rain. You are the one that gets to decide when it all burns and what grows from the new earth that appears from what you release, from what you burn down. Be the fire, be the rain, and be fearless in that knowing, no matter how uncomfortable it is. And I know that it's uncomfortable. I'm going to walk you through how to surpass that discomfort. And I want to get into that by first sharing a personal story for you that about a moment that I had with a coach that I'm working with right now, Brittany. If Brittany, you're listening to this, shout out, sister. I love you so much. She is my business coach and mentor right now. And we were sitting down at Brittany's house about 3 weeks ago, and Brittany was kind of coaching me on public speaking and pitching and how I present myself and self-image and everything from like body language to tonality of voice. And I was giving Brittany this like pitch that she asked me to write in like 15 seconds. And she just kind of looked at me and she's like, "You're not selling me." And by the way, this pitch was about a coaching program that is under the works right now, which I can't say too much about, but you've given the teaser. And I was like, well, like I went through this and it's really important to me to help women feel like this because I went through that, but like, a lot of people go through that. And she just kind of looked at me and was like, why don't you speak about your experiences with more confidence, with more emotion? She was like, if you tell me about something difficult that you went through and you're just kind of numb to it, she's like, I'm not gonna feel connected to you. I don't feel connected to you right now. And she just kind of looked at me and she kept prodding, and eventually I broke into tears and told her, I don't feel like what I went through was bad enough. I'm so afraid that if I share my experiences, the women that I work with will tell me that I'm just seeking attention, that I just want validation for the things that I went through when they weren't even that bad, or that I have no reason to be complaining when I have so much good in my life despite what I went through. And she just kind of looked at me, and I want this to sit with you as well because I think so many of us need to hear this. Brittany looked at me and she said, did you ask for what you went through so that you get attention about it from others? Did you ask to go through the hardships and the trauma that you went through to one day hold them on a piece of paper for other people to see? Or, she said, did you choose to create purpose from the things that you went through? Did you choose to turn those things around and give them a reason to be the person that you are showing up as today? And it just hit me like, oh my God. Yeah. How many of us are giving our power away to false stories because we're so afraid of what people are going to think about us and what people are going to have to say about our truth, when people are always going to have opinions, but opinions are not truth. Other people's opinions do not have to take away from the truth of who we are, what we felt, and what we've been through. I would say that probably 99% of us didn't ask to go through what we went through, to experience the things that happened to us, but the natural tendency is to blame ourselves for those things because that gives us a sense of control over the past. If we blame ourselves, then we justify what happened to us, even if they were things that were completely outside of our control. But those stories about our lovability, our desirability, our capability, gone unnoticed, feed into our present. How many of us have been criticized at work by our bosses and then like left that meeting and gone back into past memories and said like, oh my gosh, I was never good in school. Like I was never a straight A student. I switched degrees 3 times. So obviously I'm not good enough for this position. How many of us have entered relationships and immediately found ways to tear ourselves down about why this person wouldn't love us or why they're not right for us because of what a past ex-partner made us feel or said about us, or when they left us, the things that we believed to be true about their absence. How many of us have allowed one failure in our lifetime dictate how capable we are at achieving our goals? And this is why I ask you to sit with the memories that are at the seat of your present right now and are the ones holding the wheel to how you present yourself. Because it's so easy to let past stories that carried a lot of emotional trauma and baggage infiltrate our present and decide that what happened in the past is what is going to happen to us now. This is especially true if you're a people pleaser or somebody that's engaged in persistent self-betrayal throughout your life. You may be very used to spending most of your time trying to satisfy an image of yourself that is desirable in the eyes of others, preventing you from truly building a solid sense of self that you have the confidence in, the certainty in, the assurance in, so that when a critique or an insult comes flying your way, you aren't shaken by it. If you're a people pleaser, you might also have spent a lot of your life, just like myself. I'm like calling myself out here so hard with these. This is me on the script. You've probably been too flexible at how you've let the suggestions or the opinions of others dictate how you should be or act. And flexibility is not the same as openness, I think. I think when it comes to our sense of self, there has to be a fine balance of certainty in who we are and our worth, while also being open to new ways of walking through life, new ways of approaching relationships, new ways of showing up with more intention throughout our day. But if we are too flexible about who we are, and we let ourselves be swayed by suggestions about how we should do our jobs, how we should live our purpose, how we should talk to our partner, how we should, I mean, that's super important. That's super important. Be open to suggestions from your partner from that. But if you're too flexible about how you let people's opinions infiltrate your sense of self, who are you when you look in the mirror? When you tell people who you are, what do you say? And I think that's the key, is what is the running, the consistent, the constant things that you can say about yourself. You are a person of integrity, a person of strength, a person of determination, of discipline. Those are the things that need to be prioritized as a constant in your life. And not to mention, of course, social media and this persistent self-improvement culture. It's so easy to be in a persistent state of scarcity in which we believe that our life always has to be different, that we're never quite hitting the mark, that we're never happy enough, that we're never traveling enough, that we're never making enough money enough. You know, noticing the ways in which we are reinforcing our own worthlessness to ourselves is so important, because the longer we spend sitting with our present selves, what they desire, what they believe to be true in this moment, what they want their truth to be in this moment, that is where growth comes from a steady base, from a seed that gets planted and nurtured in the same spot versus moving it around to different planters. I don't know, I just thought about that analogy right When you claim who you are, when you have lived too flexibly, allowing other people to decide for you, it is one of the most uncomfortable but powerful things that you will ever do. And like I said, we have to be comfortable enough in what makes us who we are to take up space and not let our sense of self be shaken by other people. Again, there's a difference between receiving feedback for how we can show up better in our relationships, at work, in our personal lives, and letting the opinions of others sway us from our sense of self. Your sense of self and how that self shows up to things are integrated, but your sense of self should never be shaken. So the way that we change our beliefs and sit solidly within our seat of self is we have to choose a new belief and couple it with the emotion that we want to fuel that belief. So very much like the negative experiences that we've lived through that held such a strong emotional imprint that they cemented a belief within our subconscious, right? Your partner suddenly abandons you and it carried so much pain and grief that you then believe that you are worthy of being abandoned. You get fired suddenly and it carries so much uncertainty and fear and feelings of worthlessness that you believe that you are not capable enough, that you are not good enough. The same is true for cementing beautiful, strong, empowering beliefs about ourselves. We have to feel into the energies of these new belief systems that we want to adopt. Hiro Boga said it best when he said that you should immerse yourself in the energy of what you desire. And it's very uncomfortable at the start because some of these belief systems might come with emotions that you haven't ever or barely ever felt before, right? Sitting with, for example, what do you want confidence to feel like? What do you want safe romantic love to feel like? And really choosing adjectives that ignite that feeling. Does confidence to you feel like liberation, like this opening, like envisioning yourself walking through the streets with your shoulders up, with your head held high, with brightness in your chest, with brightness in your face and your smile? Does peace feel like a quiet morning in your home, having a coffee on your balcony before getting into work? Does peace feel like no conflict in your household? Does abundance feel like a consistent stream of income, like a yacht? Like more friends, like more food on the table, right? If you don't know what it's supposed to feel like, go towards the things that you desire that are going to bring out that energy for you. Go directly to the desires in your heart and let them speak for themselves. And again, when you feel into this for the first time, it's going to be uncomfortable because all the limiting beliefs around what you're worthy of and what you're capable of achieving and what you can do and what you can't do are going to start to come up. But with enough time and rehearsal, because that's the key, right? Neurons that fire together wire together. That is a neuroscience principle that says that any belief system in your brain that is stored in there are neuronal pathways in our brains. I won't get into too much of an anatomy lesson here, but the neuronal pathways in your brain that hold the beliefs about yourself, the more you fire them, the stronger they are enlaced together. The more you tell yourself that you are not a lovable person, the more those connections are going to cement themselves. But if you suddenly interrupt that constant rehearsal of that belief with, no, I am a loving person who is worthy of love, and you feel into that emotion of feeling loved, appreciated, abundant, safe, the weaker the negative belief becomes. And the further you dive into this practice, the further you immerse yourself in the emotion of that, the stronger that connection becomes, but also the quicker it is formed. Because emotions coupled with thoughts are the most powerful combination next to thought aligned with action. The moment that you decide that you want to show up more confidently in your life, with more joy, with more peace, let the visualization of the emotion and the things that bring you peace, joy, feelings of safe love, abundance, intelligence, let those feelings guide you towards what you need to do to achieve those things and start cementing those beliefs, and then start doing them. Even if you don't feel ready, even if you don't feel like you're prepared, thought coupled with action and emotion is the only straight line to adopting a new story and a new belief about ourselves. And with that too, I think when I was talking about finding the silver lining in the negative things that happen to us, it is so easy to fall into the trap of other people's criticism or only see one side of the coin when somebody criticized us or when something negative happened to us, instead of building a new story around it or taking the positive about ourselves from that experience. So the example I'll give you is that in my life, I am, if you hadn't guessed, I am a super big people person. I love meeting new people. I am always looking to make new connections. I am always looking to bring people together in my home between friend groups. I'm the girl that like mixes the friend groups, and people from friend groups now get along because of me, and it's great. Like I love it. I get so much joy from it at networking events or like parties where I'm like the friend of the friend. It's not uncommon that I will be at the table where most people come to sit at, or I will be the one that huddles a group of people together because, again, I just love seeing people connect and make each other smile and support each other. But with that, a little something, a whisper that has frequently found itself back to me is that people will see that and think, she's such an attention seeker. She's just seeking validation. Oh, she's just like so desperate for love and attention and friends. And there was a time where I fed into that. There was a time in which I fully believed that I was so desperate for love and friendships and the validation of other people that I should not be embracing that side of me. And I dimmed her. I dimmed her for a time, and I would like go back to different experiences in my life in which I'd received like similar feedback, or somebody, like I'd brought a group of friends together and people hadn't liked each other and they were like, don't mix these friend groups ever again, and started nitpicking those past moments to feed what those people were saying. Oh, this happened in the past, so it must be true. I must be attention seeking, and just tormented myself for something so beautiful. And it wasn't until I took a look at these comments and how I was making myself suffer and reframed them and said, what if instead of telling myself that I'm an attention seeker, what if instead the confidence that I feel within myself and the joy that I get from bringing people together and the knowledge that I have and the capacity that I have to give to others, what if the fact that I radiate that is what makes people drawn to my light and my joy and my abundance? Not because I'm attention seeking, not because I'm a recovering people pleaser, yes, but that's not a story we're feeding anymore. Not because I am seeking validation, but because I want to pour love out into the world. Because I want to connect people together. I want to make connections. And the same goes for you. Take the experiences in your life and look at how a part of your true self was peeking through those experiences from between the cracks, and instead of seeing that version of you, you are seeing all the negative that happened. What if you got taken advantage of, not because you deserved it, but because your kindness is so big, you just allowed one person to take advantage of it, or you overextend for one person? What if your ex-partner left you not because you are too much and not because you are unlovable, but because they do not have the capacity to hold the universe that is you? What if you are not cocky, but rather confident in what you're worth and what you're capable of, and that is a threat to people who do not believe that about themselves? What if you are not a failure because that business you never got off the ground didn't work, but rather because you were being redirected to something else, or because you couldn't see then what you can see now about the gaps that you didn't fill? We are so mean to past versions of ourselves when we can't expect them to know what we know now. And when you claim yourself, in case you didn't know, people are going to be really unhappy about it. There's going to be a lot of people who think you're too much, and there's going to be a lot of people who tell you that you're cocky and you're outspoken and you're this and this, and you can choose to believe that and continue tormenting yourself and continue letting an untruth take your dreams away, take your desires away, or you can trust and accept that you're not going to be the main character in everybody's story. You're not going to be the favorite character in everybody's story. And your radiance is a threat to people that have not yet found their light or are not yet comfortable in shining their light. Or your radiance is shining a light on their shadows. And that doesn't make you any less worthy because of what they say. It doesn't make you anything that they say. So long as you can claim your seat of self, your divinity and your capacity to let it shine draws the divinity out of others. And when you dim that sacredness about yourself, you take away your experiences to feel, to grow, to connect with people, to give to the world, because the earth is always calling you to give with your light. So again, in order to adopt a new belief system about who you are and who you want to be, you have to couple a thought with an emotion and then an action. Immerse yourself in the energy of who you want to be and how you want to feel, no matter how uncomfortable it is at first, because you will face the discomfort of running up against the limiting beliefs that are holding you where you are right now. But just because you're chained somewhere right now doesn't mean that you can't break those chains. Feel into it. Think about the things that you want to do, to be, to say, to wear, that bring those emotions out of you, and then start doing them. Break the pathways, be the fire and the rain, and be unapologetic about it. Be willing to try and perhaps fail. Be willing to let it take time. But for you to choose peace and joy over the current stories that are keeping you from what you desire is actually you liberating yourself. The discomfort is only part of the process. It is not the truth of what you deserve and what you are capable of. Beyond the discomfort is the life you've always wanted. If you choose to take a leap and burn it all down to see what you can create. And that is all that I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that this inspires you to start doing the work to claim the life of your dreams, to be the person that you are meant to flourish into. Stop letting your potential scare you and feed the higher self that you were meant to become and fulfill the purpose that you were meant to live in this lifetime. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the podcast, whether you're listening on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon. I don't even know all the platforms anymore. We're everywhere. Send it to a friend who might find it helpful as well to get their day started on an empowering note. And if you're not following me on Instagram, it is at Commitment to Growth. And I always post updates about what's going on here on the channel, on YouTube, the things I'm writing, the things I'm doing, the events I'm hosting, because I do host a lot of pop-up women's circles, and I've got my virtual free Belong Sisterhood that has now over 260 women, I think, and we meet every Thursday evening at 6 or 7 p.m. PST for our weekly empowerment hour and virtual sisterhood circles. So if that is something that you're interested in joining us for, I will leave the link in the show notes description so that you can join us on your Thursday. You can tune in just like when you're cooking or eating, or you can turn your camera on and join us for the discussions, because they always get super, super juicy, and it's just my happiest place of my week, honestly. So I'm so happy to be back and growing with you. I'm so happy to be behind the mic again and to be sharing more wisdom and insights with you. And thank you for making me a part of your personal transformation journey. I will see you in the next episode.